The sound of clinking silverware against ceramic plates filled the dining room as I stared across the table at Rachel, my wife, my partner of 7 years. She was there only a few feet away, but she may as well have been 1,000 miles distant. Her fork moved mechanically, twirling strands of spaghetti as though she were on autopilot. It was her eyes that truly gave her away, glassy, unfocused, lost in a private realm of thoughts and deceptions. She wasn't here with me. Not really. For weeks, I'd noticed subtle changes in her behavior. A phone always on silent, a nervous laugh if I asked too many questions about her day, the way she avoided my gaze at dinner. We'd once been inseparable. She would recount every mundane detail of her life at the office, and I'd share my small triumphs or frustrations at my job. But lately, it felt like she despised being in the same room, let alone confiding in me. She'd respond to even simple questions with abrupt, one-word answers. I'm not blind. I'm not stupid. Still, I hoped, prayed, really, that it was something trivial, maybe stress from work or some personal issues she wasn't ready to share. But that quiet voice in my gut wouldn't let me rest. When we were together, I sensed she'd drifted so far that I no longer recognized her. Across from her on the table, her phone vibrated, the screen lighting up with a new message. She glanced at it quickly, then back to her plate, not realizing I was watching. Another silent notification. Another moment of tension. My pulse quickened, adrenaline creeping into my throat. I told myself I shouldn't pry, I should respect her privacy, but something in me snapped that night. When she stood up to get the Parmesan cheese from the kitchen, her phone lay momentarily unattended. My hand wavered in midair, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Part of me screamed not to look. But the other part, the part that suspected something was very wrong, overcame my hesitation. I picked up her phone. I saw a new text from someone named Dylan, a name I didn't recognize in her contact list. The words on the screen glared back at me. I can't wait to feel you again. Last time was incredible. My vision blurred as I reread the sentence, hoping I'd misread it. But the letters didn't change. They seared themselves into my mind, final and unforgiving. I set the phone back down quickly, my hands shaking, just as Rachel returned with the Parmesan. My heart hammered against my ribs, but outwardly I tried to remain calm, though an icy wave of betrayal washed over me. 7 years of marriage, 7 years of loyalty, shared laughter, little traditions, and inside jokes. And now a single text threatened to destroy it all. She resumed her seat, her expression oblivious, continuing to eat as though nothing had happened. That plate of spaghetti might as well have been laced with poison. My jaw clenched, and all I could hear was the echo of that vile text in my head. Can't wait to feel you again. Over my dinner? She'd been texting another man like that during dinner with me. I tried forcing a bite down, but felt the spaghetti threaten to come back up. A storm brewed inside me. I wanted to fling my plate aside, to rage, to demand the truth. Instead, I swallowed the bitterness and confronted her in the calmest tone I could muster. Hope the pasta tastes as good as the man you're texting can't wait to feel. I set my voice low, each word like shards of glass. Her fork clattered against the plate. She froze, looking at me with widening eyes as though I'd stripped away the final veneer of her secrets. Effin, she stammered, voice trembling. What are you talking about? I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms. I wanted her to feel this, to know I wasn't a fool. Don't act oblivious, I said icily. You just got a text from Dylan, right? Something about how he can't wait to feel you again. Her face paled, confirming everything. She tried to speak, but no words came. I'd seen that meltdown in so many dramas, never imagining it would happen at my own dining room table. Effin, wait, this isn't what it looks like, she began. My lips curled into a bitter sneer. Don't insult me by pretending it's innocent, I spat, fighting the urge to scream. I literally saw the text. I know you've been sneaking around behind my back with Dylan. So just admit it, Rachel. She tried to hold my gaze but failed. Her fork remained abandoned on the plate, the spaghetti untouched. For a moment, it looked like she'd break into tears. She managed, I can explain. Explain, I repeated, voice dripping with sarcasm. Explain that you're carrying on with some man while I sit here, oblivious, cooking your meals, paying the bills, living my entire life thinking we're a team. Sure, go ahead. Explain. A tear escaped the corner of her eye. But I didn't flinch. Some tiny corner of my mind still felt love for her, but it was overshadowed by anger, humiliation, heartbreak. Ethan, I didn't plan for any of this, she whispered. It just happened. I felt alone, invisible. Dylan made me feel alive, like I mattered. I let out a hollow laugh. So that justifies you sneaking around for who knows how long? Sexting him during dinner in our home? You've destroyed us, Rachel. 7 years, gone in an instant. She tried to grab my hand, tears streaming. Please, Ethan, let me fix this. We can talk it through. I still love you. I wrenched my hand away, an acid taste in my mouth. Don't say that. Don't say you love me while you're texting another man how you can't wait to be in his bed. She sobbed quietly, repeating, I'm sorry, in a broken whisper. But I wasn't prepared to comfort her, not anymore. All I saw in front of me was a stranger who'd been lying for who knows how long. The walkout. When I stood up from the table, she tried to follow, her eyes desperate. Where are you going? She asked, voice quivering. Anywhere but here, I answered coldly, grabbing my jacket. I need space. Don't wait up for me. She pleaded with her eyes, but I stepped past her, ignoring the tears, ignoring the pang in my own chest. The door slammed behind me, and I hurried to my car. My hands shook as I fumbled with the keys. I found myself driving aimlessly, the city lights blurring around me. A strangled laugh bubbled in my throat, us and everything we'd built, undone by one text message. Or was it undone by months of deception that I just discovered? I pulled into an empty parking lot near the outskirts of town, the engine idling. The rage was still there, but so was a hollow ache. My marriage was effectively over. My entire life plan, the woman I adored, gone in one monstrous betrayal. Tears burned at the corners of my eyes, but I wouldn't let them fall. Not yet. I spent the night in a cheap motel off the highway, phone buzzing with texts I refused to read, probably from Rachel, maybe from concerned friends. I lay on the stiff bed, eyes fixed on the popcorn ceiling, mind replaying every sign I'd missed. The sudden phone secrecy, extra hours at work, the intangible distance that had grown between us. Maybe I was partially at fault. Maybe I hadn't shown her enough affection or attention. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could justify her decision to cheat. A decision to confront the truth. Morning found me exhausted but eerily calm. I needed to see how deep this affair ran. If she'd done it once, maybe it was ongoing. Maybe it wasn't the first time. Better to know than to wonder. So that day, I hired a private investigator. It felt extreme, even paranoid, but after that searing betrayal, trust was worthless. I wanted the full truth, not half-lies or manipulative confessions. Let an unbiased observer bring me the facts. The investigator, an older man named Frank with a gruff demeanor, listened to my predicament with a neutral expression. I'll find out what's going on, he said simply. But be sure you're ready for whatever I dig up. I gave him a wry nod. I'm not sure I'm ready, but I need to know. While Frank began his surveillance, I told him how to handle the inevitable. Some nights, I considered confronting Dylan directly at his workplace, humiliating him the way he humiliated me. But I realized it might jeopardize my job or lead to an ugly scene. No, better to wait for evidence than bring it all out cleanly. Meanwhile, I avoided going home if I could help it. Rachel texted me daily. Rachel's text, please come home, we need to talk. I'm sorry, Ethan. We can fix this. I love you, I was just confused. I'd read them, feel a swirl of conflicting emotions, and then close my phone. I had no words for her. She'd said enough. If she wanted to fix it, she should have thought of that before sneaking around. Frank's updates arrived every couple of days. He sent me cryptic messages. I got video. They met at a motel near the highway. She paid with your joint credit card. Each new piece of intel was another punch in the gut. My wife, the woman I thought I knew better than myself, was using our money to pay for clandestine meetups with Dylan. The rage flared fresh each time, tempered only by a grim determination to see this through. The hard evidence. Finally, Frank said he had enough to prove not just a fling, but an extended affair. Photos of them entering a motel multiple times over the last month, text logs that suggested they'd been meeting for at least 3. Possibly it started months back in secret. He gave me the file, timestamped pictures of them hugging, kissing in her car, even one shot from a distance, showing them laughing in the motel parking lot. My stomach churned, but there was no turning away from it now. I told Frank thanks, paid him, and left a folder of heartbreak in my hands. I spent that night in my car outside a park, flipping through the evidence by the glow of the overhead light, tears burning my eyes. This was the definitive story of my wife's betrayal. I was no longer imagining it. The question was, how would I handle it? By the next morning, I made up my mind. I was divorcing her. There was no path to reconciling something this deep. She'd lied for months, used me as a cover, and sneered our vows. I refused to let her keep me as a fallback plan. So I arranged a meeting with a divorce lawyer. Meanwhile, I braced myself for the confrontation with Rachel to deliver the final blow. She deserved no warnings, no gentle approach. The confrontation? I texted Rachel, "Be home tonight. We need to talk." Her response was immediate. "I'm here. I want us to fix this." I almost laughed reading it. There was nothing to fix except the loose ends of our marriage. When I arrived at the house, I found her in the living room, eyes swollen from tears, phone on the coffee table. She stood as I walked in, but I stayed near the door, arms crossed, face grim. "Ethan," she began, voice trembling. "We need to talk. Please, let me explain everything." I was messed up, lonely. Don't. I cut her off, raising a hand. Don't bother with the sob story. You want to know how I spent my week? Meeting with a private investigator. You know what he found? Her face drained of color, confirming she knew exactly what he found. He found pictures, lots of them, of you and Dylan, multiple times, multiple motels. Want to see them? I brandished the folder. She stepped back, covering her mouth in horror. Ethan, I was wrong, I know, she said, tears glistening. But it was just a mistake. I never wanted to. A mistake is a one-time slip, I snarled, not a series of secret meetups over months. Don't insult my intelligence. She sobbed, I love you. I was lost. He made me feel alive. But it's you I truly want. Let me make this right. Let me. I shook my head. The swirl of heartbreak and anger reached a crescendo. It's too late for that. I'm done, Rachel. I've already hired a lawyer. I'm filing for divorce. Her sobs erupted louder, but I felt a cold finality. This was the end. She tried to approach me, but I stepped away. Don't. Just don't. Aftermath and letting go. The next day, we hammered out minimal details. She moved out to her friend's place, signed some preliminary forms. She wept, said she'd do anything to keep me. We can go to therapy, you can have all the passwords to my phone, she pleaded. But trust is like glass. Once shattered, you can't simply glue it back. I was in no mood to try. Over the following weeks, friends discovered what had happened. Some were shocked, some not. People we both knew tried to remain neutral, but lines were drawn. Dylan faced gossip at work. Some suggested he might transfer to a different branch. I'd avoided him, refusing to speak unless absolutely necessary. If he tried to talk to me, I walked away. My lawyer found the evidence compelling. The text logs, the motel receipts, the photos. Infidelity was crystal clear, giving me leverage in the settlement. Rachel tried to argue emotional neglect, but it fell flat. We ended up dividing assets. The house was in my name from before the marriage, so she got no share of it. She took her personal items and some joint money, but not enough to hamper me. Once the final decree was issued, I felt a mix of sorrow and liberation. She had chosen her path. I was free to choose mine. I took a few months off from social life to heal. The heartbreak was excruciating. Sometimes I woke up missing her voice, missing how we used to be. But I remember those messages from Dylan the night she claimed to be working late. That bitter reality kept me on track, reminding me that nostalgia wasn't worth sacrificing my self-respect. Eventually, I found a sense of peace. I redecorated the house, removed every photograph of us as a couple. I hung out more with old friends, picked up a new hobby in photography. Over time, the raw agony dulled, replaced by a quiet acceptance of my new life. I was single, yet I discovered I was also stronger. The last I heard, Dylan ended up resigning from his position amid the swirling rumors. Rachel tried once more to contact me, apologizing again, claiming she had realized Dylan wasn't worth it. I read her text once and deleted it, feeling neither triumph nor pity, just finality. Epilogue, a new chapter. Now, a year after the whole fiasco, I stand on my front porch, sipping coffee, watching a sunrise that feels more beautiful than any I'd seen in a long time. The air is crisp, and with each breath, I sense the future opening before me. No more deception, no more nights spent wondering what secrets my wife might be keeping. I'm not naive. I know the scars remain, but scars are also proof of healing. The old me might have let bitterness define me, but instead, I've chosen to let it refine me. I've learned to trust my instincts, to value open communication in any new relationship, and never to settle for less than honesty. My heart, though battered, still beats, still hopes. Sometimes people ask, if you could go back, would you do anything differently? Maybe I pay closer attention to those early red flags. Maybe I force a conversation before the affair started. But I also believe that people who want to cheat will find a way, no matter how attentive or loving their partner is. In the end, the betrayal was hers to own. So I walk forward one step at a time, unafraid to face the unknown. Betrayal shattered my illusions, but it also freed me from living a lie. I stand on my porch, coffee cup warming my hands, and realize I'm at peace. Because sometimes the worst thing that can happen to you can also be the start of something better. And that's the story of how I discovered my wife's affair with my coworker, confronted her, and ultimately divorced her. In sharing this, I hope anyone going through a similar ordeal might see that there is life and even hope beyond betrayal. Rebuilding isn't easy, but it's possible. And sometimes, letting go is the bravest act of all.